I still remember the way my chest seized the moment I saw it. One photo. One careless photo that changed everything. I was curled up on the couch, my newborn cradled against me, breathing in the soft, powdery scent of his hair. Exhausted. Still healing. Still trying to piece together this new life that was supposed to be filled with nothing but joy. The notification lit up my phone. I almost didn't check it. God, I wish I hadn't. But curiosity, it's a cruel thing. I opened the message, expecting a congratulations, a family update, something normal. Instead, I saw a photo of my husband, smiling, laughing, holding our baby, in his arms, while another woman leaned in close, her hand gently stroking my son's tiny head, like she belonged there, like she had any right. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room, like the ground under me had shifted and left me falling into nothingness. I stared at the photo, my brain refusing to process what my eyes were seeing. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Maybe it's an old friend. Maybe. But my heart knew. Before my brain could even string a thought together, my heart knew. It wasn't suspicion anymore. It wasn't the gnawing, aching doubt I had been trying to ignore for months. It was fact. Cold, undeniable, soul-crushing fact. While I had been bleeding, stitching myself back together, whispering lullabies to a newborn at 2 a.m., he had been out building a second life. While I was crying in the shower from postpartum pain and exhaustion, he was laughing, arms wrapped around someone else. I clutched my baby tighter to my chest. My hands were trembling so badly I was afraid I would drop him. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my phone against the wall. I wanted to tear down every single memory we had built together. Instead, I sat there, frozen, feeling like my soul had been set on fire from the inside out. I wish I could say I was surprised, but betrayal is funny like that. It drips in slowly, like a leaky faucet you keep telling yourself you'll fix later. It's the missed calls, the too long text replies, the sudden unexplained errands, tiny things that don't add up until they're all you can see. Still, a part of me had wanted so desperately to believe. Believe that he loved me. Believe that we were a family. Believe that I wasn't just disposable. And now, staring at that photo, every single lie he had ever told me played like a cruel movie in my mind. The, "I'm just tired, babe." The, "You're being paranoid." The, "I would never hurt you." The worst part? He didn't even look guilty. He looked happy. He looked free. That realization hurt worse than the betrayal itself. Not only had he broken us, he had wanted to. He had been waiting for a chance to slip away. I felt nausea roll through. Me, so strong I had to close my eyes and grip the couch just to stay upright. And in that dizzying, gut-wrenching pain, something ancient inside me stirred. A small, fierce voice. A voice I hadn't heard in a long time. A voice that had been buried under years of bending, breaking, and silencing myself just to keep the peace. I will not let this destroy me. I didn't know what the next hours, days, or months would look like. I didn't know how I would face him. I didn't know how I would survive this. But I knew one thing with a clarity I could feel in my bones. I would not let his betrayal define me. I looked down at my son, sleeping so trustingly in my arms, and I made a silent promise right then and there. For him. For me. For every part of me that had been lost along the way. I would rise. Even if it killed me to do it. I would rise, if I'm honest. The part that still haunts me isn't the betrayal itself. It's the fact that for so long, I thought I was happy. I thought I had everything I ever wanted. When I first met him, it felt like something out of a dream. He saw me, really saw me, in a world that so often made me feel invisible. He made me feel chosen, like I was the only woman in the room. He had this way of listening, like every word that fell from my lips mattered, like I was magic. And, God, I soaked it up. Every smile, every late-night conversation, every whispered promise of forever. I let it pour into every broken crack inside me, believing that maybe, just maybe, this time, love would be enough to save me. In the beginning, he was my safe place, my laughter, my home. I remember the way he used to touch my face when I was speaking, like I was precious. I remember the night he told me he had never loved anyone the way he loved me, and I believed him. Every word, every lie wrapped in sweetness. Looking back now, I can see the red flags waving like sirens. But love makes you colorblind, doesn't it? The late nights at work that started just a few months after our wedding. The moments he pulled away when I reached for his hand in public. The way his phone always seemed glued to him, or flipped upside down on the table, notifications. Silenced, I asked once, half joking, half terrified. Is there someone else? He laughed and pulled me close, kissed the top of my head like I was a silly little girl. Don't be ridiculous, he said. You're the only one for me. And that was the thing. I wanted to believe it more than I wanted to question it. So I swallowed the doubt. I convinced myself it was my own insecurities talking. That if I just loved him harder, trusted him more, everything would be okay. When I got pregnant, I thought things would change. I thought a baby would anchor us. I thought he would come home earlier, hold me closer, dream with me about the life we were building. At first, he did. He kissed my belly goodnight. He picked out names with me. He painted the nursery walls while singing off-key to the radio. But little by little, he drifted. As my belly grew, it felt like he shrank further into himself. The jokes started, about how I was hormonal, clingy, too emotional. He stopped looking at me like I was beautiful, stopped touching me like he wanted me. I told myself it was normal. Pregnancy was hard. Men didn't always know how to handle it. I made excuses for him, over and over, stacking them up like a wall between me and the truth. When he started working late again, I stayed up waiting for him, telling myself it was temporary, telling myself he was just stressed, telling myself 1,000 little stories to cover the gaping hole where trust used to be. There was one night, I remember it too vividly, when I cooked his favorite dinner, spent hours standing on swollen feet, just wanting to see him smile. When he finally walked in the door, hours late, he barely looked at the table, barely kissed me hello. I'm tired, he mumbled, brushing past me. No thank you. No smile, just a shadow of the man I thought I knew. I ate alone that night, sitting at the table across from his untouched plate, tears slipping down my cheeks into the cold food. Still, I didn't leave. Still, I told myself, this is what love does. It stays. It forgives. It fights. But now I see it differently. Wasn't stupid. I wasn't weak. I was in love. And love, real, raw, wide open love, can make even the smartest, strongest women believe in fairy tales that were never meant for them. I didn't fail because I trusted him. I didn't lose because I believed in us. He failed. He chose to betray something sacred. He chose to trade loyalty for momentary pleasure. And I chose to love, to believe, to build. I can't hate myself for that anymore. It's easy to look back and pick apart every choice, every moment I should have seen clearer. But the truth is, I gave my whole heart. And that is not something to regret. That is something to be proud of. He didn't break me because I was weak. He broke me because I was brave enough to love him in a way he could never match. And now, as I look back on the woman I was, hopeful, forgiving, fighting for a dream, I don't feel shame. I feel compassion. I feel pride. I feel love. Not for him. For her. For me. The woman who dared to believe in love, even when the man she trusted didn't deserve it. There's a kind of pain that sinks into your bones, so deep that no amount of screaming could ever pull it out. That's what I felt the day he crossed the line. The day he didn't just break my heart. He endangered our child. It started small. Just a weird feeling in my gut. That gnawing, restless energy that wouldn't let me settle. He had taken the baby for a few hours, said he wanted to give me some time to rest, said he thought I needed a break. And for a moment, for just a flicker of a second, I wanted to believe that maybe he was trying to be thoughtful, that maybe he remembered how exhausted I was, how desperate I was for sleep. But that voice inside me, the one I had spent so long ignoring, wouldn't shut up. Something wasn't right. Something was very wrong. I tried calling him. No answer. Texted. Nothing. At first I told myself not to panic. He's probably just busy with the baby. His phone probably died. There's a million harmless explanations, right? But the minutes dragged on like hours, and the pit in my stomach grew larger with every second of silence. My hands shook as I opened the location tracker we still had synced from when we first started dating, back when sharing locations felt like a cute, romantic gesture, not a desperate cry for answers. It loaded slowly. My heart thudded so loud. In my ears I could barely hear myself think. When the map finally came up, my stomach dropped. He wasn't at the park like he said he would be. He wasn't grabbing coffee at the corner cafe. He wasn't anywhere he should have been. He was across town, at an apartment complex I didn't recognize, and he'd been there for a while. My mind raced, but my heart knew. It knew the truth before my brain could even form the words. He had taken our newborn, our helpless, fragile baby, straight into the arms of another woman. I sat there on the floor, the world spinning around me, trying to catch my breath, trying to make sense of something that made no sense at all. How could he? How could he put our baby in the middle of his lies, his filth? How could he expose our son to a stranger, to a woman who had no business being anywhere near him? It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was something deeper, something primal. A mother's rage, a mother's terror. It roared through me so loud, I thought it might tear me apart. I called again. Straight to voicemail. Again. Voicemail. I knew I had two choices. Sit here, paralyzed in my fear, or move. Protect my baby, no matter what it took. I don't even remember making the decision. I just remember my fingers dialing 911, my voice trembling but clear as I told the operator that my husband had taken our newborn without my consent, and that I feared for my child's safety. The words tasted like blood in my mouth. Bitter. Final. Funad's dispatcher was calm, asking for details, location, descriptions. I answered everything automatically, a numbness settling over me like armor. Somewhere deep inside, my heart was breaking into 1,000 sharp pieces. But above that, louder than the heartbreak, was the fierce, unwavering instinct. Protect. Protect him at all costs. The officers promised they were dispatching units to the address, told me to stay by my phone, told me they would handle it, and, as I hung up, a strange sense of peace settled over me. Not because everything was okay, it wasn't, but because for the first time in a very long time, I wasn't shrinking anymore. I wasn't swallowing my fear, my hurt, my anger to make someone else comfortable. I was standing up. I was fighting back. I didn't know what would happen next. If the police would find them. If he would come back angry. If this would destroy the last crumbling pieces of our marriage once and for all. But I knew this much. I would not let him use my love, my loyalty, my child as weapons against me anymore. He crossed a line that day. A line there was no coming back from. And somehow, in the middle of the wreckage, I found a part of myself I thought I had lost forever. I wasn't just a heartbroken wife anymore. I wasn't just a devastated woman clinging to the scraps of a marriage that had already burned to ashes. I was a mother, a warrior, a woman who had finally remembered her worth. The minutes crawled by like years while I waited for the call back. Every second was agony. Every siren I heard outside made my heart slam against my ribs. And then, my phone rang. It was the officer. They had found him, found the car, found my baby, safe, untouched, thank God. The woman, his mistress, had been there too, and now they were both facing a whole lot more trouble than they ever thought possible. I felt the tears come then, hot and messy, spilling down my face in great heaving sobs. Not because I was weak, but because I had finally stood up for myself, for my baby, for the life we deserved. That was the day I stopped waiting for him to save us. That was the day I started saving myself, and I never looked back. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't the photo. It wasn't even the realization that he had taken our baby into another woman's arms. It was the waiting. That endless, gut-wrenching, soul-splitting waiting. I sat there, my phone clenched so tightly in my hand that my knuckles went white, my heart pounding a violent rhythm against my ribs. Every second stretched into forever. Every sound made me flinch. Every passing car made me wonder if it was him coming back, if it was the police, if it was someone bringing news I wasn't ready to hear. And in that unbearable, suffocating silence, something inside me shifted. It didn't happen all at once. There was no lightning bolt, no grand revelation. Just a slow, heavy truth settling into my bones. I wasn't a victim. Not anymore. I could stay curled up in that pit of fear and heartbreak. Let it devour me whole. Or I could stand up. I could choose myself. Choose my baby. Choose a different ending than the one he tried to write for us. It wasn't about being strong. It wasn't about being fearless. God knows I was terrified. I was broken in ways I didn't even have words for. I still loved him. Or at least, I loved the version of him I thought was real. But love wasn't enough to erase what he had done. And loving someone doesn't mean you have to let them destroy you. So, I wiped my tears with the sleeve of the sweatshirt I hadn't taken off in days. I took a breath that felt like swallowing glass. And I made a decision. No more waiting. No more hoping he would suddenly become the man I needed him to be. No more shrinking myself to fit into the tiny, miserable space he left for me. I picked up the phone again. But this time, I wasn't calling him. I was calling a lawyer. My voice shook at first. I stumbled over the words. Custody. Emergency hearing. Protective order. Words I never thought I'd have to say out loud. Words that made the finality of it all feel so real, so sharp. It took my breath away. But I said them anyway. Because my baby deserved better. And if I couldn't fight for myself yet, I could. Damn sure fight for him. The lawyer was calm, steady. She listened without judgment, without rushing me. She told me what steps we needed to take, how quickly we could move. She gave me a lifeline to grab onto when it felt like I was drowning. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt something other than fear. I felt anger. Righteous, burning anger. Not the kind that consumes you, but the kind that fuels you. The kind that says, "You don't get to do this to me. You don't get to win." I started making a list, a custody plan, evidence I would need, support I could lean on. It was messy. It was overwhelming. It was terrifying. But it was movement. It was action. It was mine. Every time my mind tried to spiral, every time it whispered, "Maybe you're overreacting," or "Maybe you should just forgive him for the sake of the baby," I thought about that photo, about that woman's hand on my newborn's head, about the betrayal that went so much deeper than infidelity, about the fact that he hadn't just hurt me. He had made choices that could have hurt our son, and suddenly, forgiveness wasn't even on the table. Survival was. Freedom was. A new life was. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed, my eyes, the what-ifs clawed at me. What if he fought me for custody? What if he painted me as crazy, unstable, bitter? What if no one believed me? But somewhere underneath all that fear, there was a fire. Small at first, flickering, but growing, feeding on every memory, every lie, every moment I had doubted my own worth because of him. I wasn't the same woman who once sat up all night waiting for him to come home. I wasn't the same woman who once begged for scraps of affection, who twisted herself into knots trying to be enough. I was a mother now. And more than that, I was a woman who had finally, painfully, beautifully woken up. I didn't need his permission to live a life worth living. I didn't need his validation, to know I deserved better. I didn't need anything from him anymore. The next morning, I packed a bag. Not for him, for me, for us. Important documents, baby supplies, every piece of myself that he would no longer have access to. I didn't have a clear map. I didn't have a perfect plan. But I had something better. I had myself. I had my baby. I had the fire inside me that he could never, ever put out. And that was enough. I used to think that justice had to be loud, that if I wanted to be heard, if I wanted to be believed, I would have to scream until my voice was raw, fight until there was nothing left of me. But the truth is, real justice is quieter than I ever imagined. It's patient. It's steady. It's inevitable. The morning after I filed for emergency custody, everything shifted. The temporary order was granted almost immediately. The court saw the risk, the recklessness, the complete disregard for our baby's safety. It was written plainly in black and white. The GPS records, the police reports, the witness statements. Things I never should have had to gather. Evidence I never should have needed. He tried to act surprised. Tried to twist the story. Tried to paint me as overreacting, emotional, unstable. But the facts were facts. And for the first time, the truth was louder than his lies. I didn't have to defend myself. I didn't have to explain the years of tiny betrayals, the moments of gaslighting, the slow crushing erosion of my trust. The proof spoke for itself. Watching him squirm, watching him realize he no longer had control over the narrative, was its own kind of justice. I didn't feel victorious. Not then. I felt exhausted, hollowed out, like I had been carrying a boulder on my back for so long that even after it was lifted, I couldn't quite stand up straight. But I showed up. Every court date, every meeting, every paperwork deadline. I showed up even when I was shaking inside, even when every fiber of my being wanted to crawl back into bed and disappear. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the tiny person depending on me. It was about rewriting the future, one painful, courageous step at a time. He and his mistress didn't go down quietly. They tried to fight it, of course, tried to argue that they were just friends, that no harm had come to the baby, that I was vindictive and bitter. Typical. Predictable. But the damage was done. Their choices were documented, laid bare for everyone to see. It turned out she wasn't exactly a model citizen either. A background check pulled up a history of fraud charges, a restraining order from a previous relationship. Things he either didn't know or didn't care about. Either way, it didn't look good. Not in front of a judge, not with a child's safety on the line. Slowly, piece by piece, everything he tried to build on lies and deceit crumbled. Shared custody? Denied. Unsupervised visitation? Denied. Full parental rights? Stripped. He was granted minimal supervised visits, the bare minimum, and even those were under strict conditions. And she wasn't allowed anywhere near my baby. Not now. Not ever. It should have felt like a victory parade. But the truth is, it felt quieter than that. It felt like standing at the edge of a battlefield, looking out over the wreckage, and realizing you survived. But not without scars. There were nights when the loneliness wrapped itself around me like a second skin. Nights when the fear crept back in, whispering that maybe I wasn't strong enough for this. That maybe I should have just stayed, endured, accepted the scraps he was willing to throw my way. And then there were nights when I would rock my baby to sleep, feeling his tiny heartbeat against mine. And I would remember exactly why I left. Exactly why I fought. I whispered promises to him. In the dark, that he would always be safe. That he would always be loved. That he would never have to wonder if he was enough. That I would never, ever let anyone treat him like an afterthought the way his father had treated us. I kept those promises like oxygen, like prayer. The months that followed were hard. So hard. Money was tight. Sleep was rare. Some days I felt like I was failing at everything. But underneath it all, there was a different kind of strength growing inside me. Not the brittle, desperate strength I had clung to during my marriage. This was quieter, deeper, rooted in something real. I got a better job. I found a little apartment with a tiny backyard where my baby could toddle around under the sun. I made friends again, real ones, women who had walked their own paths through heartbreak and come out stronger. I started laughing again, really laughing. Not the forced, careful laughter I used to offer like an apology, but big, messy, snorting, laughter that made my ribs ache, and slowly life stitched itself back together. Not perfectly, not neatly, but beautifully. As for him, I heard through the grapevine that things didn't stay so shiny between him and the mistress. Shocking, right? Two people who built something on betrayal and deceit struggling to maintain it. Who could have seen that coming? He lost more than just me. He lost the right to be there for first steps, first words, birthday candles blown out with sticky, smiling faces. He lost the chance to know the incredible little person we created. He lost the privilege of fatherhood the moment he chose betrayal. And me? I didn't lose anything worth keeping. The truth finally dragged itself into the light, and I stood in that light, stronger, freer, fiercer than I had ever been. I didn't have to scream to be heard. I didn't have to destroy myself to get justice. All I had to do was stand tall, speak the truth, and refuse to back down. In the end, karma knocked louder than I ever could, and I was there to hear every single glorious sound. Healing isn't some perfect straight line like I used to think it would be. It's messy. It's 2 steps forward, 1 gut-wrenching step back. It's crying in the middle of the grocery store because a song comes on that reminds you of who you thought you were going to be. It's laughing with your child and feeling that sting of sadness underneath because you wish things had turned out differently. But it's also beautiful. It's real. It's mine. I don't wake up every morning feeling powerful and brave. Some mornings I wake up tired. Some mornings I wake up missing the woman I used to be before heartbreak reshaped her. But most mornings, I wake up with a peace I never thought I'd have again. There's something holy about the quiet moments now. The mornings when my son clambers into my bed, warm and sleepy, wrapping his tiny arms around my neck like I'm his whole world. The mornings when I sip my coffee, no chaos, no lies buzzing in the back of my mind. Just me. Just him. Just a life we built out of the ashes. Forgiveness was never about him. It wasn't about excusing what he did or pretending it didn't hurt. Forgiveness was about me. It was about setting down the heavy, rusted chains I had been dragging around, the ones that kept me tied to a past I no longer lived in. I forgive myself for staying too long, for believing too much, for loving someone who didn't know how to love me back. I forgive the version of me who thought that if I just gave a little more, heard a little less, stayed a little quieter, maybe it would be enough. She didn't know better. She was doing her best with the pieces she had. And now I get to live differently. I get to be a woman who no longer begs to be chosen. I get to be a woman who chooses herself every single day. There are still triggers. Still memories that sneak up on me when I least expect them. But they don't control me anymore. They don't define me. If anything, they remind me how far I've come. They remind me that survival wasn't the end goal. Thriving was. I look around at my life now. The tiny fingerprints on the fridge, the giggles from the other room, the simple, sacred calm of my own home. And I realize that the life I lost wasn't the dream I thought it was. It was a cage. It was a slow suffocation dressed up as love. What I have now is real. Imperfect. Unpredictable. But real. I laugh more now. I dance in the kitchen, bad and barefoot. I say no without apologizing. I say yes to things that set my soul on fire. I am not the woman who flinches when her phone rings, wondering what lie she'll have to swallow next. I am not the woman who cries herself to sleep, wondering why she wasn't enough. I am not the woman who confuses survival for living. I am the woman who rose, who burned down the life that tried to burn her, and built something stronger from the ashes. And to the woman listening right now, the one who's still sitting in the wreckage of her life, wondering how the hell she's supposed to move forward, I want you to hear me. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not too much, or too little, or too late. You are not alone. You are standing at the beginning of something beautiful, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. Even if all you can see right now is the loss, the loneliness, the grief. Even if getting out of bed feels like a battle some days, there is a life waiting for you. A life where you are loved without conditions. Where your laughter isn't something you have to ration. Where your heart is safe. Where your dreams are allowed to breathe. You don't have to have it all figured out today. You don't have to be strong all the time. You just have to take one tiny step. And then another. And another. Until one day, you'll look back. Like, I'm looking back now. And you'll realize you didn't just survive. You lived. You thrived. You became someone even more beautiful than you were before. The woman who rose from the ashes isn't perfect. She's not fearless, but she's free. She's fierce. And most of all, she's finally home inside her own skin. And if I can get there, I promise you, so can you. If my story touched your heart, if you saw pieces of your own journey in mine, please don't leave without letting me know. Share your story in the comments. You are not alone, and your voice deserves to be heard. And if you're ready to reclaim your own power, hit that like button, subscribe, and join this community of women rising from the ashes together. We're stronger when we rise together, and your next chapter can start right here, right now.